But in terms of financing, are there anything out there that any conversations you've been having with buyers to sort of help lessen that burden a bit?
Yeah, there's a great new program that we have that we rolled out just recently. It's called the 2-1 buy down program.
Hey y'all, Katie here with Team EvoAZ, and welcome to the Arizona Monthly Market Housing Update with Matt and Katie, where you learn all about the greater Phoenix area housing market, including information on interest rates, what's happening with housing prices, and tips and tricks for buyers and sellers. Please like, subscribe, and download our episode so that we can continue to get this real news out to the real people.
Hey everybody, it's Katie and
Matt.
We are that real estate couple talking a lot about real estate and a little bit about life based in the Phoenix area. This is our monthly housing market update. Please welcome our awesome favorite lender in the whole entire world, Ryan Gilliam with Waterstone Mortgage.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
I know we need like
Great
a
to be
round of
back.
applause. Hold on. Did you hear the round of applause?
Oh, wow. I love it.
There it is. There it is.
Welcome.
Bienvenue.
No, but I'll take it. That's great. Happy September, everybody. We're in September already. This is crazy.
Yes,
It is crazy.
yes. Holidays are coming up and we are hopefully sliding into our little bit busier of a season since things are starting to get a bit more seasonal here in the real estate world in the Phoenix area. So let's hop right into it, Ryan. What are rates looking like?
Yeah, so it's been a busy week. Last week the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, he kind of shook the markets quite a bit after his 8-minute speech after the Jackson Hole Symposium. Now that symposium is basically a meeting of all the economists, and policymakers. Some of the top ones in the entire country. They come together and meet once each year at this symposium. And during that whole meeting, he mentioned during his 8-minute speech that inflation, it seems like it's a little more sticky than they thought it was going to be. It's more tough to drop than that they were hoping. So he did hint at more rate hikes in the future. And when he mentioned that, when he hinted that, he had a quote here, and I'll read it. It says, "Curbing inflation will cause pain for U.S. households and businesses because, higher rates, of course, will mean higher borrowing costs like credit cards, car loans, things like that. So there's going to be less money out there for businesses, and really the stock market sold off quite a bit after that happened, after that meeting and after his speech. I think the Dow was down about 1,000 points on Friday, and that impacted mortgage rates as well because, higher inflation means higher interest rates. So the fact that the Federal Reserve Chair did say that inflation is a little more tough to lower than that they were hoping, it's going to take longer to get to levels they're comfortable with, that hurt mortgage rates as well. So we did see a jump. Conventional rates on a 30-year fixed are hovering around about a 6% right now. So we're kind of near the highs of the year. And, conventional FHA rates, VA rates, the government are more around 5%. Those are always a little less than conventional rates. So that's about where we're at right now after last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're feeling it too on our end. Buyers are kind of feeling the squeeze. Affordability is definitely on the tongues of everybody that we're speaking with. And we're, doing our best to give advice. Obviously, we always do that. We're doing our best to give the best advice that we can to our clients at this point in time, to our buyers that are really feeling that pinch. And, a lot of discussions that we're having is, well, we've got to expand the search criteria because the further out you move from city center, the less the housing prices are going to be. So let's look at that. Let's expand our criteria a bit in terms of location and what you're looking for, and hopefully can find something, that will work for you. But in terms of financing, are there anything out there that any conversations you've been having with buyers to sort of help lessen that burden a bit?
Yeah, there's a great new program that we have that we rolled out just recently. It's called the 2-1 buy down program. It's really exciting because it's financed by the seller. And as you probably both know, because the market is shifting, there's more inventory, there's less buyers out there. So, buyers are able to maybe ask for concessions. So this program does need to be paid for by the seller. It's 2% of whatever the loan amount is. And if the seller is able to cover that, we could roll out this 2-1 buy down program, which basically means the first year of the loan, your interest rate is 2% less than what the market is. So let's just say it's 6% right now. It's going to be 4% for the first year. And then second year, it would be 5%. And then once you hit the third year, it'll be back up to where the market is. But the way to get into the market right now and keep your payments low for the first year, second year, of course, as we've talked about in this podcast before, is rates are predicted to go down next year when inflation does eventually get under control. So you could always refinance down the road once your interest rate on a 30-year fix without this buy down program is in that, range that you're at during the 2-1 buy down program. So it's a great way to have lower payments the first and second year and eventually refinance out of it when rates do drop.
Awesome. That was going to be my question is, can you refinance out of a program like that, or are there any restrictions?
Yes, you can.
When it resets after the 2 years, does it reset to where the current rate is, or at the rate that was at that time when you signed up for it?
At the rate that you signed up for. So if you close one of those today, and we mentioned conventional rates at a 6%, it would be at 6% after the 2-year term is up. Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
But if rates are drastically different, or if it makes financial sense, you just mentioned that you can refinance out of that.
You can refinance. There's no prepayment penalty. There's no restrictions to when you refinance. So it's a great program to have a lower payment and take advantage of having a lower interest rate for the first and second year as you wait for the market to improve and for rates to lower.
Yeah, I think a lot of our renters are really feeling the pinch of the rental prices still being pretty high, and are looking for some alternative solutions and, getting themselves, of course, it's the American dream. Everybody wants to get themselves into a home, but they're looking for some alternative ways of doing that, some creative ways.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also interesting though, because I do believe like the rental market and where it's at, it's actually kind of conditioning. It's conditioning future buyers, even, maybe buyers that are even thinking of, sellers that are thinking of selling and maybe renting versus buying. It's conditioning them to realize that this is a new baseline. You know what I mean? If rents were way lower than we were with interest rates, people would have a way different tolerance. And I think what we're seeing is obviously based because of inventory. You're also seeing that through unemployment, and a lot of other economic data is pointing to people do have money, people do have income. And I just think it's reconditioning their brain, their mindset on where that money is going to be spent. And a lot of reflecting on yesterday's home prices and saying this is where it should be, but where it should and where it actually is and where it's going to be are very different things.
And I got that slide if you want to bring it up. Speaking of home prices, I thought this would be a good thing to share. And it's interesting because the home price index, I think they were showing basically that year over year, we're still up 16%. Obviously, that was because, thank you, Katie. That's exactly it. So year over year, it's up 16%. But obviously, you could see that it's slowed. The appreciation has slowed nationwide. And I like to kind of use the like a car on the freeway analogy. Like we were a car going 100 miles an hour on the freeway. Now we're kind of getting off and going down the surface streets. We slowed down, but we're still moving forward. At least that's for nationally. But I know if you look on this chart, regionally, there have been drops. And obviously, Katie and Matt, you've seen it. If you go on Zillow or Realtor.com, you could see that there are price drops that, the mountain region, which we're included in, it looks like it's down 0.9% over the past month, actually, from June to July. So is that pretty much similar to what you guys are seeing out there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this past July the numbers were the lowest in terms of closing that we've seen in a really long time. July, I'm comparing Julys from years, the last few years. It's been a while since we've seen numbers that low.
Yeah.
Incredible to still see how much the year over year is, even with some of these small declines that we're seeing month over month. And if you want to, Katie, there's Lawrence Yoon, he's the NRA chief economist. That's a National Association of Realtors. And I wanted to kind of read this to kind of put a positive take on all this. For anybody who's just listening and can't read it on the screen here, is in terms of current housing cycle, we may be at or close to the bottom in contract signings. This month's very modest decline reflects the recent retreat in mortgage rates. Inventories are growing for homes in the upper price ranges, but limited supply at lower price points is hindering transaction activity. So home prices are still rising by double-digit percentages year over year, but annual pricing appreciation should moderate to a typical rate of maybe 5% at the end of the year and into 2023. So with mortgage rates expected to stabilize near 6%, along with steady job creation, house sales should start to rise by early next year. So that's what the chief economist with the National Association of Realtors is predicting. And I know, Katie, I think last time you brought up that slide from Keeping Fair Matters that still showed, price appreciation, expected year over year, even though we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown.
Absolutely. And they're calling it a deceleration.
Yeah.
Similar to what you just said, the car's still moving forward. It's just not accelerating. So our foot's not on the pedal. Our foot's now lifted off the pedal, but it's not on the brake and it's not in reverse.
Exactly.
Well put.
Thank you.
Yeah. And back to what I was saying with conditioning. And I think that's going to be kind of this, everyone's going to get used to it. They're going to get used to these new prices. They're going to get used to this inflation. And we look at the top of this market too, to see like what really was the top. And it's kind of subjective because we don't, it's so hard to really tell where did the top really go. If we're really putting all our weight on this was the top price, some of that was, I think, artificial. So when we look at how much we've declined, I don't really think we've even declined that much, because I think that upper price echelon was built on a lot of artificial demand, from these iBuyers that were creating, stuff that, really wasn't true. So
in some certain areas too, they were concentrating on, and so the iBuyers were coming in and paying these inflated prices, and it was increasing like that specific area too. We were seeing that sort of happening around town, so that was kind of interesting. That has backed off a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a bit.
Absolutely. And it's interesting as well, because you notice that banks like just went along with it. Before you had this kind of this appraisal, this tool that's given to protect the lender, but it's also to protect the buyer, to make sure that they're not going to be taking on a loan that's more than the value of the home. And that process is pretty intricate, and it does change. It just like markets, and the standards of this report change. And it was interesting to see how a lot of these appraisals were able to base value off this iBuy search, where, when you look in previous markets, like there was even times where I remember you couldn't really use a cash purchase as an actual a comp, a comparison. You had to find someone else that took a loan because they had an appraisal, and that's what they're using. Where now you're seeing, like, especially at the top of our market, these appraisers were using these iBuyer purchases.
I was seeing some active comparables too in appraisals. More so in like comp 4, 5, 6, not comp 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? But
there, I've seen them too. Yeah.
And what she means by that is like the first 4 comps versus
that they put the most weight on. Yeah. Sorry. Y'all don't know what comp 1, 2, 3 means. But yeah, it's interesting how the appraisal world has changed even just over the course of the last couple of months.
Yeah. So, and I think that's good, because that also is, I believe, a tool to kind of make sure things are right. And I saw that personally. You saw it personally. We all did. And how appraisals were wildly manipulated and created. They were a huge catalyst to our crash, because there was no checks and balance from an actual value stance back in 2005, 6, 8, all that. They could just pretty much pick a number, and that's what it was going to be. Now they're way more stringent, and I think that's good. And it's definitely going to help keep balance.
We need balance, absolutely.
I was curious that now I'm getting this question a lot. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are. Is now a good time to buy? I was curious to see how you guys are responding to that.
You first.
I think now is a great time to buy. But I think it's extremely important to take advantage of what today's market is giving buyers. And what it's giving them is something we didn't see months prior, years prior, is a time to really consider what matters, what's their goal, what's this house's purpose. Is this going to be my house that I live in for 5 years? Is this going to be my house that maybe I turn into a rental in 2 or 3 years?
Right.
Is this going to be my forever home? And where do I want to be? And I think that is the most important factor to this. And I think because of that ingredient, that's why it's such a good time to buy. Because like you've said in the past, Ryan, you marry the home, you date the rate.
Yes.
And if that's really what's preventing them or making them feel like, oh, maybe this isn't when I should buy, or and maybe it will go down another 10%. If you're really looking at a grand scheme purchase, 5-10% shouldn't blind you, and neither should, a rate at this point. But it's something to consider in your recipe.
Goals are definitely important. Totally agree. You got to know why you're buying this house. You got to know how long you intend to keep it. Yeah, things change, but goals are absolutely important. And that's a big conversation that we're having with our clients right now.
Yeah, same here. I'm getting that question a lot. And I really do feel like that there's going to be a tipping point. We don't know when it's going to be, but there's eventually going to be a point where the inflation numbers come out and we could show that they're lowering. And the Fed's going to announce that they're not going to, increase rates anymore. And as inflation drops, mortgage rates will drop and consumer confidence will increase. And then there'll be a shift and, the buyers will come back. So sometimes, I said it before in this podcast, I think Warren Buffett said the best time to buy is when no one else is, and everybody, when the fear is at its highest is the best time to jump in. That's when you're going to be able to get the best deal. And Katie, I know I had one other slide. I wanted to kind of show this. I thought this was really interesting. The one with net worth tiers. One of the podcasts that I listened to is called MBS Highway. They talk about mortgage rates. Really interesting. This is the net worth tiers. It shows how much the top 1% in the country, their net worth is over $10 million. Wow. Top 2%, it's 2.5, 5, 1 million. But really, the top 50% have at least $500,000 in net worth. But the key figure to this is, on average, 2/3 of that net worth is from home equity. Mm-hmm. So if you want to build your nest egg, if you want to build a net worth, obviously the top 50%, the way they're doing it is through their home. So, and on top of that, of course, I know, Matt, you mentioned rent prices. They came up with that graph on Redfin, and that was the other slide. I'm full slides today, Katie. I took your slide.
Yeah, you're taking over her position. She's usually the slide lady.
I know, right? Sorry, Katie, I'm borrowing it for this one. But yeah, it shows really at the end of 2019 that the average rent, this is nationwide, the median actually was $1,650, and now it's $2,032. Ouch, that's a huge jump from just over the past 2 years. So I know, Matt, you were kind of mentioning rent and stuff, and when you're renting a home, you're paying someone else's mortgage, and might as well pay your own and build that equity that we showed in the other slide.
Exactly right.
Absolutely. And I think it's extremely important to consider that. And I think that right there, that slide, the rental demand, based upon what we were just talking about on like what's going to happen when the light shines that inflation is under control and we do see the shift in rates drop, and then all of a sudden all these people do jump off the fence, and by them jumping off the fence they're creating this sense of, oh my God, we got to keep up, we got to do it, now's the time. I'm seeing people with results. And that's what we've been saying on multiple podcasts, that I do believe we're going to see it. And it's going to be relatively quick. And if you even look at what we experienced right pre-pandemic, the amount of homes that we had on the market before the shit hit the fan, and then you look at how quick our inventory dropped.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's exactly something that people should consider and kind of look at and think about. That, if that does happen, make sure you have some indicators. Make sure you do have, if you're like, hey, I have to buy, I'm just kind of waiting to see when the best time to buy is in the next 18 months. If that's what you're doing, the game you're playing, I urge you to just make sure you have everything chambered, all your questions answered, all your T's crossed, I's dotted. So that you can jump when it's ready, because I think it's going to happen fast. And you could quickly see ourselves in an area, especially in Phoenix Metro, where you could see multiple bids coming up again.
Totally agree. We are right about in that area in terms of inventory levels that we were before that all happened.
Yeah.
We are in that same spot.
And look how fast it happened. Then you got to consider, look how fast it happened in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Take the whole pandemic thing out of this now. If anything, we should increase even quicker.
Yeah. Totally agree. Anything else you guys would like to add?
No, I think
no. There was a lot of information right there.
This is good stuff today. Absolutely, we covered a lot in such a short
time. I always
time.
Enjoy our meetings.
All these charts for everybody.
I know. I love it. All right, guys. Well, if you are interested in being a guest on the show, please follow us. Our handle is @Team Evo AZ, and we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on YouTube. If you hop on over to our YouTube channel, again, our handle is at Team Evoazy. You will see the playlist at the very top of our channel for our monthly market housing update. And you can look through all of those videos if you're more of a video person versus the audio podcast, and you can see the trend. You can see what we've been talking about over the course of the last year, because we've been doing this for quite some time now. It's actually pretty interesting to do. So check that out. Or if you're on your favorite podcast platform, please do give us a like, subscribe, download, follow, rate us, so that we can get this real news out to the real people. Ryan, we absolutely love doing this with you every month. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I look forward to this every month. Thank you for everybody for listening.
All right, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.